So to start the arteriograph measurement, first you should pair the device with the laptop. For that, please go to Bluetooth devices, double click and go to Add. Please select that the device is ready to be recognized. Click Next, and the computer will explore the Bluetooth devices in the vicinity. There you go, that's an arteriograph device that we would like to add. Select it and click Next. Now select Adding the pairing code of the device. It is 4 times 0. After that, click Next, and everything else will go automatically. Now it is ready. You can see the communication ports opened for the arteriograph. You can click Finish, and there you go. This is your arteriograph device paired with the computer. If you now go to the Properties and select Services, you can see the communication port attached to this unit, which is COM3 now. Just click OK. You can exit this window and start the arteriograph software. Double click. Please stop that. Okay, stop, and we will start. To open the arteriograph software, double click the arteriograph icon and a login dialog window will appear. You can press simply OK to log in with the standard login name. Just click Yes the next time. Now you are entered with the default login name called arteriogram. I will add a new patient here. These light yellow fields are mandatory to be filled out. The arm circumference is needed to get the correct cuff size. So you can see that the correct cuff size for her is the number 2. We will use cuff number 2. Usually we prefer to measure on the dominant arm. So if she is a right-handed person, we will measure on the right upper arm. Now one of the most important things is the ugulum symphysis distance measurement, and I will show you how to measure it. For that, either you use the standard tape measure, or it's better to have a so-called caliper. This is not the standard that we supply with the set. Standard, we just supply a simple tape measure. Now the distance that I would like to measure is from the ugulum, which is the suprasternal notch. So this is suprasternal notch, to the pubic bone, which is right here. You have to palpate it. So this is the upper edge of the pubic bone. Okay, and this is the distance that we are interested in. So now, if I make the measurement, it will give me a reading here, around 51 centimeters. Is that correct? So that is a good estimation of the true aortic length. So that's how we get the distance from which we can calculate pulse-wave velocity. You can select the gender, smoking habits, You can even add cholesterol data, for which you can select the unit. You can enter here contact details of the patient. You can add some comments here, like if the measurement was made in sitting position, whether the measured lady was pregnant, in what trimester she was in, whatever comment you would like to add here. Next one is a risk profile. This is a free editable text field, so you can enter whatever you would like here, like diabetes mellitus being as a cardiovascular risk, any family history, whatever can act as a risk marker. And the last one is a medication. We always suggest to enclose all the medication that the patient takes at the moment. That helps the evaluation a lot. Just click OK here. The patient data saves successfully to the database, and now you have this newly registered patient as the default patient. If I would like to start the measurement now, I put on the cuff to the patient, so I always use the suggested cuff size. You can leave a thin layer of tools between the cuff and the arm. If it would be too thick, I would ask the patient to take it down. Now, this is how you put on the cuff. Okay, so you can see that it is quite tight. So my finger just hardly can be inserted beneath the cuff. And this is how you attach the tube to the device. So that's how you make the system ready for the measurement. To start the measurement, you don't have to do anything else than to press the start button, and after that you will get a confirmation window just as a reminder of what the suggested cuff type was. Just press yes. Now you can see that the device and the computer are communicating, and this is how the measurement starts. In the first phase, a simple blood pressure measurement will be performed. And this is a very nice feature of the device, that you can see the registered oscillation online. So right at the moment you can see how big the oscillations are, how the forms change with the different cuff pressures. So nothing fancy here, this is just a simple blood pressure measurement. Now that was the end of the first phase. Now the blood pressure values are obtained, and according to the obtained values, two different pressure steps will be performed now. The first is the so-called diastolic pressure level. So this is one phase where some of the arterial function parameters are obtained from, and now this is one of the most important steps, if not the most important. This is the suprasystolic pressure step, from which step the pulsary velocity, augmentation index, and central systolic blood pressures are calculated. So you can see here the very characteristic waveforms of the suprasystolic pressure level. Now that's how long a simple measurement takes. These are the set of parameters that can be obtained with the arteriograph unit, and I don't think that it is much more uncomfortable than a simple blood pressure measurement. Now on to the evaluation. First of all, I will detach the cuff from the patient. That's it. So these are excellent results with excellent waveforms. So we usually prefer the waveforms to have two clearly distinguishable peaks, first and the second peak. Just to highlight you one peak, let's go back to the suprasystolic reading. To highlight you one wave, you can do it this way. This is the first systolic wave, this is the reflected systolic wave, and this is the end of the systole. So these all happen within the systolic period of a heart cycle, and if you have two peaks like this, you can be quite sure that the calculated results are accurate. Pulse wave velocity is one of the most important parameters obtained this way. Augmentation index is a very good predictor of cardiovascular outcomes, and central blood pressures, namely central systolic blood pressure and central pulse pressures, are very important parameters also. So, just to go back to the automatic analysis, I press this button up here. These are the automatic results. Let's see how a printout looks like. Now I selected the printer, and this is the form of the printout. First, patient data, risk profile of medication. If I would enter anything here, that would be listed here, of course. Measurement data, and now on to the results. First of all, suprasystolic records, but these are just the brachial or peripheral blood pressure records. These are the central or aortic blood pressure records. These are the parameters obtained from the diastolic phase. These three altogether are called cardiac fitness parameters and show you how the coronary perfusion is for that particular patient. The higher the DRA and DAI numbers are, the better the coronary perfusion is, showing a good condition of the coronaries or the heart itself. This is a quality control index. It should be in the green area. The yellow area here would show you that next time you should be careful with that measurement, ensuring that there is no disturbance, no movement, and no anything that can affect the oscillometric measurement. If the quality control would be in the red field, it would automatically mean that you should repeat the measurement and reject the calculations from this measurement. Now we are in the green, so that's correct, that's perfect. I mean technically perfect measurement. This is a calculated pulse wave velocity and the return time. Of course, pulse wave velocity is calculated from the return time. As a very, very good feedback to the user and to the patient, we give the age-related pulse wave velocity value. So this is a reference chart based on European population, which shows that according to her age, this patient is right at the average regarding the pulse wave velocity, so she is quite in a fine status now. Should she be above the 90th percentile, that would mean that she is in the extreme upper 10% of her age, meaning that she is in a high risk mode. So, just as a quick reminder, the thick blue line is the average at all ages or age groups, and the different lines refer to different percentiles of that specific age group. And we give finally an estimation of the patient's arterial age, which is a very trendy phrase right now. So we would say that her arteries are 34 years old, which is quite in a good accordance with her real age. If there is a great difference between the two, that gives you some warning about the status of the patient. Okay, we always prefer these values to be in the green field, meaning that the arteries for the patient should be always as young or even younger than the calendar age of that patient. In the yellow line, that's just a warning, but if they are in the red field, then you can be quite sure that the patient is in a high cardiovascular risk. Similarly to the other softwares of Tensiomed, you can save the report directly into a PDF now. I will do that onto the desktop. Now you can see this is the PDF generated right now. And it looks completely the same as in the software. So this is how the PDF of the printout looks like. Let's go back to the software. I will close the print preview now and go into some more functions. If you would like to search in the database, please click Open. There you can see all the patients recorded under the specific user. Either you can search by using the quick search function, and by quick search function I mean if you press a series of letters here on the keyboard, it will search for the initials of the family name. So if I press TEST, it will jump to test. You can also use a more sophisticated search function like here. It not only searches in the family name but also in the first name. So if I would like to search for Andrea, it will give you Andrea wherever it finds the first instance of Andrea. You can also search for date of birth or ID number. You can delete or add a new patient, or you can select an already defined patient to be your default patient for the next measurement. Some more functions. This is edit report, which is the same as opinion. So this is where an expert opinion can be given by the medical doctor. It can be saved. This is an export function which makes an export of the selected patients. As a first step, you should select the user from which you would like to export the results. Then you should select some or even all of the patients under that user, and as a third step you can define a time range in which you are interested. Now I would like to export all the measurements of the selected patients. Now if I click export, it will generate a formatted text file. Now I put it onto the desktop. This is export data 3 that we got. If I double click it, I just set it up to be opened in Excel. Now you can see that the name and the contact details of the patient are listed, along with the characteristics, examination date and time, jugulum symphysis distance, and from here on these are the arterial function parameters with augmentation indices, pulse velocity, central systolic blood pressure, peripheral pressures, and heart rate. So that's how an exported file looks like. Now let's go back to the software. This is how you start a measurement, and this is how you start a repeated measurement. So if you are working on a protocol, on a study, then you can set up the device to measure automatically several times in a row. For example, I can set up a test 30 minutes long with a frequency of 10 minutes. That would result in 3 consecutive automatic readings with 10 minutes intervals. That would mean that if I press start here, I can leave the patient and the whole system alone. It will automatically perform 3 consecutive measurements with 3 minutes differentials. That would take a study as long as 30 minutes. So that was a quick start guide how to handle arteriograph. There are some finer little details which you can access from the user's manual of the arteriograph. So these are the tensiomet devices, one by one. This is the most complicated, and we call them the flagship of tensiomet, is the arteriograph. Arteriograph measure the complex arterial function, including pulse rate velocity, augmentation index, and central systolic blood pressure. Arteriograph 24 is the Holter version of the arteriograph. So it also measures the complex arterial function parameters, but for 24 hours. A simplified version of the arteriograph 24 is the Tensioday Plus. This is actually in between a simple ambulatory blood pressure device and the arteriograph device, because it also measures 24-hour the blood pressure, but with the addition of central systolic blood pressure. And the simplest of all is the 24-hour blood pressure device of ours called the Tensioday. So it only measures the peripheral blood pressure, systolic, diastolic, mean arterial pressures, nothing else. So this is from simplest to the most complex device. Let me show you how I install the arteriograph 24 device. Firstly, by putting in the batteries. Take care about the polarity of the batteries, but these are indicated here and the case. Once you finish, you can put back the lid. It shows the actual voltage, and if it switches back to the actual date and hour, then the operation is good. So now it's 11 o'clock 55 minutes. So that's correct. That's how you set up the device. Usually with the 24-hour versions, you don't have to manually program it. You can manually program it, but usually we program it through the computer, because that's the most easiest way to do that. Just one more addition. Arteriograph is a one-time measurement. With arteriograph, we measure the patients in supine position, so in lay-down position, only once. You can repeat it, but with arteriograph 24, it will automatically repeat the measurements for 24 hours. So the difference is the very same as with the simple blood pressure measurement unit compared to a 24-hour blood pressure measurement unit, but here we are talking about arterial function, not just blood pressure measurement. Okay, let me show you how I connect the device to the computer, but first of all, let me show you the accessories. The accessories for the 24-hour units are 3 different sizes of cuffs. This is the standard cuff with the number 2, and this is the pouch that you can attach to the waist of the patient. So this is the pouch of the 24-hour devices with the common accessory of the cuff. So that's the whole package and the whole system that you will get along with the software I would just like to show you. To connect the devices to the computer, you have to add the Bluetooth device. So go to the Bluetooth icons field, right click and select adding a Bluetooth device. So this is adding Bluetooth device. Here you can see that an arteriograph is already added, but now we would like to add an arteriograph 24. So I select add. You have to select that the device is ready for recognition. Next. Now the computer searches for all the Bluetooth devices in the vicinity of this computer. It can take some time. There you go. This is the arteriograph 24 that we would like to pair. Double click here and you can select that I would like to add the attachment code of the device, which is 4 times 0. You can just click next and everything else will happen automatically. Now the device is added to the computer with 2 different communication ports open, 77 and 87. Now you can click finish and the wizard have attached the arteriograph 24 device. You can skip it by pressing OK. So that was the trick how to add the Bluetooth device to the computer. Now we can start the holter program, which is called TensioWin. Double click, and if you have users already defined, like I do here, you can enter with that user. You can see the build-up of the software. So the first step is the list of already added patients. Second step is how to program and retrieve data from the device, and the third step is the evaluation or the analysis of the results. So let me show you how I define a new patient. That patient would be me. So I press task Ferenc here with my date of birth, with my height, weight, and ugulum symphysis distance. Ugulum symphysis distance is very important if we are talking about arteriograph measurements. This is the distance that is a very good estimation of the entire aorta length. For that you have to measure the distance between suprasternal notch, so the upper edge of the sternal notch, to the upper edge of the pubic bone. You have to palpate it. You have to measure a straight distance, and by that I mean with obese patients you should avoid measuring on the body surface, because that can give you an overestimation. Try to measure it in a straight line as much as possible. If you measure me, I would have a ugulum symphysis distance of 51 centimeters. Arm circumference is mandatory to be given here, because that is the basis of the good cuff size selection. My arm circumference is 29 centimeters, so the suggested cuff type automatically is number 2. That's what we have here. Press here my ID number, and you can see that I could add different contact details here. I could add some baseline information, including referring diagnosis, family history, baseline symptoms, etc., etc. I could give here medication, like if I would take, for example, aspirin, and the frequency, and click OK. There you go, you will have a new medication in the list of medications. If you would like to, you can enclose the office blood pressure here, but these are not mandatory things. So now I press OK, and I have this new patient selected as the default patient. Now all I have to do is to program the device. So I go to the second step, which is set up protocol and program device. I would like to add a very standard measurement. Usually we prefer standard one, which means that every 15 minutes in the daytime a measurement is performed, and in the nighttime every 30 minutes, so half an hour. I selected this, but still I can change the different settings. So for one instance, I can add that I don't want a frequency of 15 but 20 minutes for the awake or daytime section, and for the asleep or nighttime section I would like to change it to 40 minutes. So you have the opportunity to change the settings for one instance. You can also add a special interval, like for example, you know that the client would be on an aerobic course from 4 to 5, you can set up a special interval. In my case, I will not select it. Okay, that was the first step of the programming, and as a second step, I have to choose which device I would like to program, and that is an arteriograph 24. Here I can set the offset level, which means that the so-called suprasystolic level on which the arteriograph 24 device measures on should be how much above the measured systole. Now it's 40 mercury millimeters, meaning that every time a suprasystolic measurement is performed, it will be performed on the latest measured systole plus 40 mercury millimeters. This is the default setting. Usually you don't have to change it. Now a very important step is to select the communication port on which you would like to communicate on. For that, just let's go back to the Bluetooth devices, double click, select arteriograph 24, double click it, or select properties, go to services, and it will show you that it is attached to COM77. So let's select 77 here. Or you can explore the COM ports, but it can take some time. So now I selected COM77, that is the communication port that the arteriograph 24 is put on. I select that only the selected port must be active, which helps the software to concentrate on only this communication port, so it will not explore any other communication ports, just 77. And now if I press send, I have a confirmation window whether I will use the suggested cuff type or not. Okay, I will use cuff number 2, press OK, and this is the exploration phase. First, the device's memory is cleared. It will take some seconds Now it's the second phase. The schedule or the program is downloaded into the device. Now this is just a reminder of the program. If you see this page, this screen, that means that your Arteriograph 24 device is programmed successfully. Now you can start the measurement. Here you see that the start of the test will happen within 3 minutes. So it's 12:07 and the current time is 12:04. So 3 minutes from now the first measurement will start. You can see the status of the programming. It was successful. So I skip this window and go back to the device. First of all, I attach the pouch to my waist. I will set the length of the belt according to myself. Once I have it here, I will put the device into the pouch. There you go. And usually we prefer to put the cuff onto the dominant arm. And I mean by dominant, if I'm a right-handed person, I will put it onto my right upper arm. We prefer the cuff to be in a position that the tube faces the neck. I put it behind my neck and attach the tube into the device. So that's how it looks like. It's quite comfortable. You can put the cuff onto the thin layer of shirts, so this will not affect the measurement. However, be careful about the installation or the placement of the cuff. It should be more tighter than a simple blood pressure measurement cuff. So there you can see that I hardly can press one finger beneath the cuff. So that's how tight it should be. So that's how I look like. If there is some excess tubing, you can place it under the belt, and it still allows for a lot of movement. So there you can see I can move with this quite easily around. You can move, you can do your common work while you do this measurement, but if you feel that the measurement is started, it would be optimal to stop for a minute in standing position and wait until the measurement is ready. Now you can hear that the measurement is started. Now the device re-inflates the suprasystolic pressure. And that was the phase when the arterial function parameters were picked up. By arterial function parameters, once again, I refer to pulse rate velocity, augmentation index, and central systolic blood pressure. After the 24-hour measurement is ready, then you don't have to do anything else than to detach the device from the patient. and retrieve the data from the device into the computer. So this is retrieve data from device. You have to select arteriograph 24, and the lastly used COM port will be the default one. So COM77, you don't have to touch this because now it's okay, and just press OK. And depending on the number of measurements, it will take from few seconds to few minutes of time for the data to be transferred back to the computer. Now in this case it will be quite fast. There you go. This is one measurement, but let me show you complete measurement of a patient. For example, this lady was measured in January this year. I selected that measurement and press the next button, and that's how I enter the complex evaluation mode. Now you can personalize the outlook of this. For example, this is just a graph of a simple blood pressure measurement, but I can turn on the graph of the arterial function measurements, and that's where you can see with purple line the pulse velocity, with light blue the brachial augmentation index, and with dark green the aortic augmentation index. You can either turn off the standard graph and just see the arterial function data and the change of them. So that's how you can assess the measurement. You can evaluate the whole list of data with different parameters represented in red if they are over a certain threshold. For example, the threshold for brachial systolic blood pressure is 140, so anything above 140 will be indicated with red. So this is the whole list. You can see here disturbances in the measurement. There are some missed measurements also. The gray area represents the nighttime measurement phase. Anything that is white refers to the daytime measurement. You can gain some simple statistics like mean, maximum, minimum, standard deviation of the brachial parameters, the same for the central blood pressure parameters, and the same for the arterial function indices like augmentation index and pulse wave velocity. You can generate some correlation indices, which also gives you the so-called ambulatory arterial stiffness index, for short AASI, which is also a very widely used parameter for assessing arterial stiffness and cardiovascular risk. You can also show some histogram regarding the peripheral data, so systole, diastole, mean arterial pressure, and heart rate. If you are ready with the evaluation and you think that you only need to print it out, then you can go to print report. These are the default settings of the print report, and go to the preview mode, select the printer that you would like to print on, and then you will receive the standard 3 pages of the report. If you zoom in here on the first page, that's just a simple 24-hour blood pressure evaluation with the different results and with the thresholds for systole and diastole represented in the graph. The second page is for the expert opinion, so the doctor can type in the opinion here, and the third page is for the arterial function data. According to the different thresholds, you can assess the patient's state of arteries either for pulse velocity or for the augmentation index, whether there are extreme outliers, whether there is high pulse velocity or any other parameter throughout the day or just during the night, just during the daytime. So you have plenty of options here to assess correctly the cardiovascular risk. And as a last step, if you'd like to, you can save the results directly to PDF. Can close it and go back to the main window and check. Okay. There are several other options for the evaluation of the measurement. So if I select one measurement and go to the more detailed window, let's go first to the study data tab, and here you can change the day-night set. So first, the device is programmed according to former knowledge of when the patient would go to bed and when the patient would wake up. After the measurement is completed, you should modify these settings according to the real data. So you should ask the patient when she really went to bed, and if it was, for example, at 2100, click here, and if it was at 2100, you can change it here and press OK. You can also change the different thresholds of the blood pressure measurement. Usually we use the daytime thresholds of 135/85. A more strict threshold for the sleeping phase, but I can change it to 140/90, which is the office threshold usually, and press OK. Once I do this and go back to results and turn on the graph, you can see that the new threshold is 140 and the start of the sleeping phase is at 2100, which I just set previously. So that's how you can personalize the thresholds and actually the outlook of the whole measurement. There you go. Now, if you would like to go more into the details of one particular arterial function evaluation, just click anywhere on this list. It will show you on the graph which particular measurement is chosen, and here in a separate window you can see the suprasystolic waveforms from which the arterial functions are calculated. If you don't like the automatically calculated results here, which is actually the average of this whole segment, you can highlight only one, and you can see that the numbers here changed, or a series of waves and receive a bit different results. If you like it more than the whole, just press save here, and your manually chosen numbers will be saved into the database for later evaluation. You can magnify these waves just for better visibility, and you can magnify the horizontal axis either. So there are plenty of options here. One more thing, if you have an outlier here, like for example this pathway velocity you suspect was a result of some serious movement or some environmental disturbance, double click here and you can disregard the results of the arterial function parameters. If I press here, select this function, it will result in this particular measurement excluded from the results and statistics further on. Now I press OK, and you can see that this measurement was dismissed from the graph. So you have the opportunity to exclude different measurements if you know that there were some disturbances during that span. Let's go to the data. Here you can see the complete list with some explanation for the errors. There are some different options up here. First of all, patient details. That's just a quick reminder. That's one window that stays always on the top and gives you a reminder of the patient details. You can turn it off. This is how you can save a PDF report by one click. So if I click here, it will automatically generate a PDF. I will put it onto the desktop now. Ready, the report file is saved to the desktop with an automatic naming, which is first the name of the user, second the name of the patient, and after that the date of the PDF generation. You can click OK. The next function is the very same as the former one, which is saving a PDF, but it will automatically open up an email client and attach the generated PDF as an attachment. The next one is a simple save function, which will save the raw data or the results of the whole measurement. That enables one particular measurement to be transferred onto another computer and be opened from there. The next one is export data, which will export the results or the list of the results just like represented here. And the final one is the written opinion.
The very new development is the tensioclinic arteriograph technology and device, which is unique and patented. We have invented some years ago that the occluded, closed brachial artery will work as a sensor to detect very high quality pulse wave curves and signals, and then we have discovered that this kind of technology could be applied as a Holter technology, that means to use for 24 hours. But you can see in this picture that the device can be worn on a wrist belt, and then a very simple cuff serves to collect the data. However, not only the blood pressure data are compared, but detailed arterial function, arterial stiffness data are also stored in the device memory. During the 24-hour operation, the device can collect data about the augmentation index, about the pulse wave, taken together about the vascular or arterial age with a very simple cuff. And then this kind of method is fantastic and very suitable for the hypertension field, for the cardiologic field, for the nephrologic field, and even for the daily clinical routine for the general practitioners who are absolutely responsible for the cardiovascular prevention, to be able to detect the vascular damage as early as possible. What we can see here, it's a very, very easy application, very comfortable to wear this kind of device, and it is easy during walking or during working. It does not touch at all the daily life, and then this way even during the working hours the examination can be performed. What we can see now, what we can see now is the Tensiomed office, and the technology which was developed by Tensiomed and had been patented in many countries, including Japan. This is a very nice and very new method, which means that even in walking or even in daily work, the device and the technology could be used for recording the blood pressure, the aortic central blood pressure, the so-called arterial stiffness parameters like the aortic pulse velocity, the augmentation index, the ejection duration, the diastolic reflection area, the systolic and diastolic area index, and furthermore the peripheral blood pressure data as well. We know all well that the central hemodynamic parameters are playing a very important role in the assessment of the cardiovascular status of the patient, because we are aware today, hypertension specialists, that the peripheral blood pressure does not provide us sufficient information about the central hemodynamic changes. For this reason, to assess and to measure the central hemodynamics is very important. The device is able to measure the data even in walking conditions. The patient should only stop for a few seconds during the patient and during the measurement, and then can continue the way, continue its daily life. Here you can see the Tensiomed office again, and then here you can see how easy to wear, how small the device is, and how comfortable to handle the thing. Slow down.